I want to welcome you to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel. Here's today's question. Why does the verse Acts chapter 12 verse 4 use the word Easter in the King James Version? Thank you. Well, this is actually a very insightful question because almost every other version of the Bible in English uses the word Passover. Now, if we were to go down into the New Testament into Greek, we would discover the word Pascha, which is actually translated Passover. So the question is, has the King James Version of the Bible made a mistake in translation? Well, it's actually more in depth than just what does the word Pascha means, because when you translate a word, it's more than just what the word is. It's also the context in which the word is found. So here's kind of the backstory. The backstory is that in the story, Herod has put Peter in prison. And it is at the time of, you guessed it, Passover. Well, he wants to make sure that all of the celebrations are over prior to all of the legality so that the, quote, people don't get upset with him as a leader. Now, what does this have to do with the question? Well, what's interesting is that the Jewish calendar, of which Passover is involved, is a 360-day lunar calendar. The Roman calendar, obviously, was not biblically based in any manner, and Easter was an absolute pagan holiday. Now, I can illustrate that today. Today, as we celebrate Easter, and I know we typically do so as a, quote, Christian Resurrection Day, it follows on the, quote, first Sunday after the first of the month after the, quote, spring equinox. It's kind of a crazy formula, but it can change. In fact, next year, Easter is in March versus April of this year. It fluctuates. Whereas Passover is always on the 15th of Nisan, or the first month of the Jewish calendar. Now, you're thinking, what does this have to do with translation? Well, if you look at the chronology, or shall we say problematics of the chronology, you can actually have Easter prior to or after Passover from a pure pagan standpoint. You have to go back 2,000 years to realize it wasn't based on as it is today. Now, the reason this is important to the question is that it is actually chronologically possible that what you and I know as Passover had already been completed when Peter was put in prison. So if you translate it as Passover, then he actually would have been in prison for 360 plus days. And so therefore, because of the chronological crisis that you have, and Herod being a pagan that would have celebrated Easter, the King James translators translated it Easter, not because they wanted to go contrary to the actual word that's used, but because they wanted to be faithful to the chronological context that was actually being spoken of in Acts chapter 12. Great question. If you have one, send it to AskJeff.net. Maybe your question will be tomorrow's. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at AskJeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.